So I come to you from a different venue today. I'm in my workshop. I'm going to show you how to make a crook knife from a small piece of ground flat stock. This I bought from Cromwell's. If you search Cromwell's ground flat stock on the internet, you'll find them, and there's also a link on my website. It's annealed steel, so that means it's soft, so it's workable. But first of all, first thing we need to do is thin the end out. So all I'm going to do is heat the end of that in the flame with this gas torch, and then I'm just going to beat the end down just to work it out nice and thin, so you get a thinner. The one side needs to be very straight and the other needs to taper in. Keep that side nice and straight, and the back side I'll make taper in. Need to turn to a bit of gardening now. I've been heating this steel and cooling it quite rapidly because I've been hitting it on a cold block with a cold hammer. And the quicker a steel cools, the harder it becomes. And I want to grind the bevel on this now, and I'm going to use a sanding belt to grind the bevel. And if the steel's too hard, it can wear out the sanding belt really quickly. So, turn to gardening, and this stuff, vermiculite, which is used for aerating soils and creating drainage. You just mix it in with your potting compost and put it in your pots for your plants. Now, it's really quite strange stuff, very lightweight, but what you need to do is heat this till it's bright red and plunge it into there. And the vermiculite will slow the cooling right down, and that will make the steel really soft. When you get it out and it's nice and cool, it will be really, really soft. Resist the temptation, if it's still warm when you pull it out, of plunging it into water, because that's going to heat it, that's going to harden it up again. You want it nice and soft so it's easy to grind the bevel. Now while that's cooling slowly, I'm going to show you how I grind the bevels. Great idea, thought about by my friend Richard Guy Gibbons. You have Clark Woodworker. It's just a little hobby grinder, hobby sander. Cost about £65–70. It's got this vertical 1-inch belt. It's got the table. The table normally tilts this way. What you have to do is adapt it, grind the back off a little bit so it'll tilt backwards. Then get yourself a piece of angled steel like this, with a 90-degree angle in it. That places on there. Use some small G-clamps to G-clamp your steel to it. If I just grab a small piece of steel as an example, it's on there, and then you pass it along the grinding belt and it puts the bevel on really nicely, and then obviously you turn it round to do the other side, there. And it makes really nice straight even bevels, and it takes a matter of minutes. So I've given that about an hour in the vermiculite, so it's now nice and soft. Be careful when you're taking it out, because it still might be hot and you don't want to burn yourself. Now this is soft. You can prove that by using a scribe and putting a mark in the steel like that. So now we're ready to grind the bevel. So put a little mark on here where I want the bevel to start from and go to. I'm grinding it on the straight side. Now I'm ready. So that's now done halfway. You can't pick it up very well on camera, unfortunately, but it's now time to do the other side. Just to note, be careful when you're grinding the bevel on the edge that you thin down. It's not going to need as much grinding because obviously the edge is a bit thinner. Now you know when you've got the two bevels to mix, you'll get a burr develop, and you can see the light catching the burr there along the edge. And this metal's quite soft, so it'll burr quite a lot. So I know I've come to a nice sharp edge. You can actually feel your finger hooking on it. But what I need to do now is to get that edge really good before I put the bend in it. Because once I put the bend on it, it can be quite tricky to get a nice good edge. So what I do first is I actually heat treat it, then I get a good edge on it, then I have to heat it up and put the bend in it, but because I heat it and put the bend in it, it means I have to heat treat it again, because the heating to put the bend in it will re-soften it and take away all the hardening and tempering work you've done. So bit tricky, but it doesn't take too long. Okay, so it's now time to harden and temper this for the first time so I can get a nice edge onto it. I'm going to heat it up using the gas torch again. I need to get it to what's called critical temperature before I quench it in the oil. And the easiest way to tell that is it will lose its magnetic properties. The magnet sticks to it now. When it's bright cherry red, or it's almost an orange, the magnet won't stick to it anymore, so I can dump it straight in the oil, and that will quench it really quickly. It will cool it very quickly, and it'll harden. You can't dump it straight into water, unfortunately. Water flashes away from it too quickly, so you don't get as good a quench. So oil's the best thing to use, but I'll do that now. You can see then it didn't stick to the magnet, so I quenched it. I heated it from the back of the knife as well. I didn't heat it from the side because that could cause it to warp. And although it's got to have a bend in it, I need it straight at the moment so I can put a really good edge on it after I've tempered it using my sanding machine again. And if it warps or bends, that can make it really tricky. Okay, I've cleaned it up with a bit of wet and dry so I can now see the bare steel. And this is important because I'm now going to do the tempering, and I'm going to use a little jet torch like this to temper it. And I'm going to look for those rainbow colours. You can see here it's called an oxidization layer, and it's on top of the steel, and this yellow colour is what you want all over. Now I'm not so fussed about it this first time round because I only need it so I can get a good edge on before I put the bend in it. The second time round I will be more fussy. Bluing. Just dumped it in water really quickly, in and out. It cools the cutting edge down but leaves the heat retained in the spine. Okay, so you can see on this steel I've got the colours there. I've got yellow here, blued a bit there. The end needs a bit more doing to it, as does back here, because this could still be quite hard and brittle. So I'm going to get my jet torch and just carry on heating it, and hopefully, if I get the angle right, you'll be able to see the colours run. So I'm just heating this area up here now. I'll hopefully get the colours to go in a minute. So now I'm tempering it. You can see it bluing there. So now that area is being nice and tempered. I won't do any more on that area. The colours will still run even after you stop heating. I'm going to do a little bit more on the tip here. I'm not too concerned about over bluing it at the moment. It's the yellow I ideally want on the cutting edge. There we go, that'll do. But that's more important when I've put the curve in it and I'm heat treating it properly. This is just enough so it gets me a nice cutting edge on there. You can see the yellow oxidized layer. It's what you want generally along most of it.